people still say pro wrestling is fake. But somehow it's more popular now than it's been in years. So what are we missing? Welcome to another edition of The Adam Kennedy Show, your weekly escape briefing. And today we're talking about something that I'm actually in: pro wrestling. Not just watching it, I'm a part of it. I'm a referee. Because I think a lot of people look at wrestling on the surface and don't really understand why it's still so big today. So we're going to break that down. Why wrestling is still popular, why it's actually booming right now. And then I've got an unpopular opinion that might make some people mad. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate you tuning in. So let's get into it. I got to start here because this is the question I think a lot of people have when it comes to pro wrestling. With everything out there today, streaming, social media, YouTube, TikTok, all the different ways to consume content, why is pro wrestling still popular? Like, how has it lasted this long? It not just lasted, but people still tuning in every single week. First off, you got to understand, wrestling isn't just wrestling. It's not two or more people fighting in a ring. No, it's literally a mix of sports, movies, and storytelling all in one. And I think that's what people don't always understand. In wrestling, you have characters, rivalries, storylines, betrayals, comebacks, and big moments. It's basically a TV show with real physical consequences. And that's the key. Because you're not just watching matches, you're following a story over weeks, months, sometimes years. I mean, think of the Bloodline. The whole story with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline when he was like champion for seemed like 5 years. That was a story over years. And everybody was invested in that, right? Because when you're watching who's rising, who's coming up the ranks, who's falling, who's turning heel, shit, who even's turning face, and who's about to become the next big star. You're watching, and those are the things you're watching for. And that's what keeps the people locked in. Because now it's just not, let me watch this match. It's, I need to see what happens next. And then there's this part that always gets me. People love to say wrestling's fake. It's fake. It's not real. It's fake. Okay. That's an opinion, not the right one, right? Yeah, the outcome is predetermined, but nothing about what they're doing is fake at all. And I can actually speak on this because I'm in it. I'm a referee in pro wrestling on the independent circuit. I've done training. I've done wrestling training. Every referee you see out there has done wrestling training. They've taken bumps. I've taken bumps. I've had practice matches. Bumps. Like, I hit that fucking mat. I've taken not a superplex, but I've taken superplex in training. I've taken body slams. I've took multiple different types of bumps in training, in matches when a referee gets bumped, right? And I can tell you right now, the ring is not soft. Yeah, it may seem soft. It may seem bouncy. It's not. It's not. What's under it? Wood and steel. Wood and steel. And you feel that shit. And the crazy part is, I'm just a referee. My job in a match is I'm up and down. It is physical out there as a referee. It's physically exhausting. And I'm just a referee. Imagine what wrestlers go through. Taking slams, match after match. Getting thrown around. Hitting the ropes, doing this night in and night out, all across, from the indies to WWE, AEW, all the big times. And then you got to get in a car or go to an airplane, stay in a hotel, drive to the next show, fly to the next show, home for 2 days maybe? And then you got to do it all over again. And let's not talk about dieting and eating properly. And I see it every time at every show I'm at. I see the toll it takes on their bodies. It's real. The injuries are real. The fatigue is real. It's a brutal industry. But we do it because we fucking love it. Every person that is in pro wrestling, most of the people in pro wrestling today, grew up watching pro wrestling, wanted to do that, and now they're fucking doing it. They do it because they love it. They do it. And that's the part people don't understand. So yeah, call it scripted if you want. We're gonna do this the right way. You can call it predetermined, you can call it scripted. But don't call fucking wrestling fake. That's an insult to everybody that is involved in pro wrestling. That is a fucking insult. You ask anybody. Yeah, it's silly. Just call it scripted. Call it predetermined. I don't like when it's called fake, and that's just me. There may be some other people out there in the pro wrestling industry that don't get upset by that, and I'm okay with that. We have that right not to be upset. We can call it fake if we fucking want. Somebody that's never done it before? Nah. Come into our world and then you can talk. Until then, use proper terminology. Scripted, predetermined. I think those are okay. I think those are all accepted worldwide by everybody involved in wrestling. Sorry. I'm not apologizing for how I feel. I fucking love pro wrestling. And so that brings me to another reason why it's still popular. It's generational. Listen, I can find, if I go talk to 20 people right now that are around my age, let's say 35 to 45, and I ask them, 20 of them, and I ask them, did you watch pro wrestling growing up? I guarantee you at least 17 of them say yes. You watched it growing up. At some point in your life, you watched pro wrestling. If I find 20 people, I think 17 of them say they watch pro wrestling, right? I mean, shit, you had the 80s. I mean, I guess that's like the Hogan era. After that, you had the Attitude era. You had the Ruthless Aggression era, which is Cena's era, and now you're in the current era. And you had different eras after the Cena era, right? But now you're in the current era of wrestling, right? WWE's on fucking Netflix, and then what happens is people watch it heavy as kids. Then life happens. You go to college, start working, you get busy, you fall off. But here's the thing. Somehow people always come back. I've always heard people when I'm working at a job, right? I'm a teacher and I tell people I'm in pro wrestling. And they be like, yeah, I used to watch pro wrestling. I just recently got back into it and watching it again. I saw something on TV. I was like, oh, that person's back? I'm fucking watching. And I always have the saying, it's like, you don't quit wrestling. You just take breaks from it. And then there's the other part of that to play off that. When I say it's generational, when you have kids, your kids start watching, and now you back watching again. And now you're sitting there like, hold on, this is actually kind of good again. I'm really into this. Like, I've missed this. And now you're explaining to them like who The Rock is, who Stone Cold is, who are all the greats, Bruno Sammartino from back then, Macho Man Randy Savage. You're showing them old WrestleManias, all the shit from those different eras up until what they're watching now, so they can kind of have the history, because that's what you grew up watching. Shit, even my kids, they don't really watch wrestling, but they love to go to the shows that I'm on when it's in town, and that becomes a first circle moment. You watched it as a kid, now you watch it again through your kids' eyes. Now, I never left wrestling. I always kept watching. There would be moments where I would take breaks from watching wrestling, but then I'd be like, something always drew me back in. I always continue watching wrestling, but I was one of those people, like, you take breaks. I know there's people out there, I didn't really watch it at this point in time, but then I came back, right? And the connection's there. It's there. It's powerful. Some reason pro wrestling has this powerful connection, and you just can't explain it. You just can't explain it. And at the end of the day, wrestling works because it makes you feel something. It has that connection. You got heroes to root for, villains you can't stand, underdogs you want to see win, and moments that give you chills, right? And when wrestling is done right, those fucking moments hit. That's why people still watch. Because it's not just about winning or losing. It's about the experience. And I'll add this too, because this is a big one. Watching wrestling on TV is great, but watching it live and in person, that is a completely different experience. The energy is different. The crowd is louder. Like you hear the crowd. The reactions feel bigger. You're not just watching it, you're a part of it. You're watching with everybody else in the venue. The cheers, the boos, the chants. You feel every moment. And I think once people go to a live show, that's what really hooks them. Because now it's just not something you watch, it's something you experience. So when people ask why wrestling is still popular, it's simple. It's just not wrestling. It's storytelling. It's physical. It's emotional. And it's experience people stay connected to for life. Now let's take that a step further. Because it's one thing for wrestling to still be popular, but it's another thing to say it's been booming, and it's still booming right now. And I feel like I've seen it firsthand. Listen, growing up, I didn't even know independent wrestling existed. To me, when I was like really into wrestling, it was during the Attitude Era, like those mid-90s is when I really got into it. I always thought wrestling was WWE, WCW. I knew there was wrestling in Japan, and I had heard of AAA in Mexico. And then ECW came along at some point in the Attitude Era. They did a program with them. That's all I thought wrestling was. I thought that was the entire wrestling world. I didn't realize there were smaller promotions all over the country, all over the world. I didn't learn about independent wrestling until my senior year in high school, right? I graduated in 2004. So that spring of when I graduated is the first time I learned about independent wrestling. I was a senior in high school and I'd been watching wrestling since I was like 10 years old. I saw a TV commercial for a local show and I was like, hold on. I was like, what was that? I tried looking up on the internet, and that's back then when the internet was still slow as fuck. Even back then in like 2004, I was like, there's more wrestling out there. I was like, I gotta find out where this show was. And I went to that show. It was lit. I was like, this is so awesome. It wasn't WWE, it wasn't like WCW. I mean, WCW had been bought out at that point, right? But I was like, this is fucking awesome. And what's crazy is I grew up in the 90s watching wrestling, and then you would hear, as I got older, I hear stories about people, how they used to discover wrestling back then, like on the independent circuit. Because back in the 90s, you didn't have fucking streaming. You didn't have fucking YouTube. People were trading. I heard people were trading VHS tapes. Like, hey, you got that show? Let me borrow that tape. I want to watch that match. You can borrow this one. And by the time, and then that's how people saw different promotions. And by the time I got to like, you get to 2004, you had DVDs around. I mean, I think the one show I went to, the indie show in '04, they were putting out on DVD. It wasn't streaming on the internet, and even then, it wasn't still easy to watch any promotion you wanted. The internet wasn't what it is. The internet wasn't what it is now. So even if the indies existed, you still really didn't have full access to them. And even when I got into wrestling in 2015, it still wasn't like it is today. The company that I trained with, they were still putting shows on DVDs. Yeah, YouTube existed, but streaming like we have now, that really hadn't taken off yet, I don't believe. And a lot of promotions are still trying to get on TV, sell DVDs, build a local audience. It wasn't this global instant access thing yet. But once I got into it, that's when everything just opened up for me. I started realizing these promotions are fucking everywhere. Not just one or two, they're all over. I mean, there's promotions in different multiple promotions in different cities, different states, different countries, and none of them are the same. And every promotion has its own style, its own crowd, its own vibe. And I stick by that. Every promotion is not the fucking same. And I'd say over the last maybe like I got into wrestling, started training. Okay, here. I had my first match in like 2014 just to reach out. I had a match in like September 2014 or October 2014. I had that match. I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm gonna hold off until I start to find a place where I could train, and then I started training in 2015. So yeah, I had my first match in like 2014 in like October because I reached out to promotion and the guy gave me a match. I was like, sure, fuck yeah. Usually that's how it happens with a lot of people that get involved in wrestling. But I already knew I wanted to do this. I just was contacting to get just to see how it was, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Now let me go find somewhere to train. And then I started training in 2015, and like when I started, I say over the last, the last 5 to 7 years now, I started seeing wrestling taking off, like a real boom. Like it just started more promotions popping up, more shows, more wrestlers, more opportunities. And I'm sitting here like, yo, this is growing fast. And the biggest reason for that, as we progressed over the years, is access. Now you can watch wrestling anywhere. You got YouTube, you got streaming platforms, you got social media. Now fans can see wrestlers before they even become stars. And that's something we didn't have growing up. You didn't have that access. And this is the big one. Now, in the last 3 to 4 years, this is a big one. And I don't think people understand this. People in wrestling can actually make a living on the independents now. That wasn't really the case before. I mean, back then, it felt like you had to make it to WWE or you didn't make it. But now, you've got wrestlers traveling all over the country, getting booked internationally, selling merchandise, building their own brands, and they're making a living doing it. They don't have to go to WWE or AEW. They can build their career on their own terms. And I think that's a huge shift in the business. And I'll say this too. How do I say this? If you've never been to an independent wrestling show, you're fucking missing out. Because it is completely different from going to WWE, AEW show. Like those are the big production shows. Lights, pyros, huge arenas, all that. Streaming on Netflix. Streaming on what AEW TNT, right? And don't get me wrong, I fucking love going to the big promotion shows. because they are great. Like, have you ever been to a fucking WrestleMania or Royal Rumble when that countdown starts to happen? Oh, it's fucking great. But there are those indie shows, and I tell you, the motherfuckers hit different. They're smaller. They're more intimate. You feel like you're more part of the show than not the big ones. It feels like you're closer to the action. You can hear everything. You can feel everything. It feels more personal. And that's the experience I got when I went to my first indie show in '04. And honestly, they're fun as hell. They fucking are. Oh my god, you get a chance to interact more. And this is one thing I always say, a little bit off topic, but instead of going to, like, if you decide you want to go to a WWE show, don't go to TV taping. Go to a live event where there's no cameras. Best experience you have when you go to a live event. It means they're not taping. The wrestlers are more free to interact with the crowd. They don't have to like pay attention to the cameras and pay attention to time. I mean, yeah, their matches, they still have to. I mean, yeah, the show is going to be like, what, 2 hours and 30 minutes with the 15-minute intermission. Go to a WWE live event, a house show. They're fucking awesome because there's no cameras, there's no TV. It's more relaxed. You actually get to interact with the crowd. And like I said, both are great, but both, like, actually, they're all three different types of experiences. That you have the indies, then you have the big production shows, but then you have those bigger companies that put on house shows, is what we call them, live events, house shows, where there's no TV, and those are different. And I always, I don't think a lot of casual fans even realize that independent wrestling exists. I think they just think it's WWE, AEW, and that's it. No, there's a whole world of local wrestling out there. And the way I explain it to people is kind of like the minor leagues. It's where wrestlers learn the craft, build their name, develop their character before they even hit the big stage. And that's what makes it so dope. And at the same time, you still have the big companies doing their thing. WWE is still top, AEW is doing their thing, TNA is still around. You got even always you have some indie promotions that are like getting to that level of like TNA, and you see more crossover happening. And so you've got both. You got the big stage and you got the indie scene growing underneath it. And together, that is what's pushing wrestling forward. So when you look at wrestling today, it just didn't survive. It's evolved. More access, more opportunities, more ways to watch, more ways to succeed. And that's why right now the wrestling business is booming. Come on now. All right. We got to get into my unpopular opinion. And I already know some people aren't going to like this one, but calling pro wrestling fake is one of the laziest takes you can have. Here's why I say that. People will sit here and say wrestling is fake. But then they go to a movie knowing damn well it's scripted, knowing damn well it's not real, and they still get fully invested. You laugh, you cry, you get hyped, and nobody says anything about that. But wrestling, now all of a sudden it's a problem. Get the fuck out of here, man. And here's the difference that nobody talks about. In movies, when they mess up, what happens? Cut! Do it again. Fix it in editing. Wrestling, you get one take. That's it. No redos, no edits, no second chances. If something goes wrong, you gotta fix it live, in front of a crowd, in real time. And let's not forget this part. That ring fucking hurts. I've explained it before. Those bumps hurt. The travel, the wear and tear, the injuries, that's all real. I'm not saying people can't get injured on a movie set, like especially an action movie. But somebody doing a comedy or drama, you really don't hear about injuries, do you? In wrestling, injuries happen all the time. Yes, the outcome might be planned, but everything it takes to get there is fucking real when they're in the ring. And they're telling that story through fighting, through wrestling. And it takes a level of skill people don't even think about. Timing, communication, storytelling, reading the crowd. You got to make everything fucking look and feel real while also keeping people safe and keeping them entertained. That's not easy. So yeah, you can say wrestling is scripted or predetermined, but calling it fake, you're completely missing the point. And I don't know how to help you. So let me know what you think. Is wrestling fake or people just not understanding what they're watching? And I'll catch you on the next one. Until next time, I'm out. Peace. Let's get it. Pro wrestling is not fake.